Hello and welcome to Reborn. If you're stumbling across this video, what we're about to talk about is my process on how I review my year and what I do to actually calculate my 2020 resolutions. So let's get into it. Deep breath out. Yes. Hey, it's good to see you again. Haven't seen you in a while. This is Matthew Muzzy Muskeen coming from Reborn Mind, Body, Soul. And if you're watching this, you believe in new beginnings and becoming your own ultimate superhero. Wow, 2019 in review. What a year, I'll tell you what a year. So what I want to let you in on here is my process on how I actually go about making my 2020 New Year's resolution. So throughout the year, what I do is I actually journal pretty much on par with every day. This is a review in how my day goes. And sometimes I express feelings, sometimes I write down things I've learned, but most importantly, I jot down things that have made an impact on my day and something that I've learned, maybe something that I messed up or something that I made someone, like I made someone upset or something. I note that in here and I review this. So I want to talk to you guys about my process and how I go about reviewing my 2019 process. So what I do is I begin by revising my entire journal. So I go from the very beginning and I start reading on how that day went or how that month went. And then from there, what I do is I actually bullet form into another book. This is a condensed version. This allows me to get like a bullet point on my year. But why am I doing this? Well, actually, it's a very calculated reason. I found that before I got on this journey of self-development, I would, on New Year's, typically get really drunk, pretty much forget about the whole year, and then wake up January 1st with no action plan, not even contemplating the action plan. So what I've soon to realize is that I can make a calculated decision on what it is I want for my future and for 2020. So what I do is I revise, I put it all into here, into a condensed version. What this allows me to do is it allows me to review the year in like almost like like Cliff Notes, let's call it, in a Cliff Notes form. Well, that is I also jot down all the points that I've learned. So just to let you guys in on, I guess, one that I learned is, for example, love allows you to be a better you. That was something, obviously, that I gained from my journal that I put here, and I felt like it was something that I needed to reflect on. And so I put all these condensed notes of the things I've learned that year, as well as the actual events that has happened to me throughout 2019. Okay, so why are we doing this and who cares? Well, depending on where you're at, but if you're wanting to live by this quote, which I think is very important, if you want the things in your life to change, you have to change the things in your life. So if you don't have calculated data on yourself, how can you begin to start the next year with knowing, well, where do I put my first step and what am I heading towards? Now, if you haven't done this, that's okay. I'm just maybe giving you an idea for the next year, 2020 coming up. But what this allows me to do is now, when I think about my 2020 New Year's resolutions, they're calculated. I can go from extrapolated data on self, and this allows me to make a calculated decision on where I want to head towards. So I've been able to write down 2020 goals. Now, with our goals, it's kind of a place you want to hit. You want to set a goal that's big enough to excite you, but small enough to you think you can achieve it. So I want to give you an example. Let me give you an example of a calculated goal that most people don't do, which I see. So they go from all of that year not working out. And all of a sudden, they're hungover day one on 2020, expecting of themselves to all of a sudden just go to the gym 5 days a week. Now let's ask ourselves this. If I wasn't going to the gym at all, and then just out of the blue, I'm gonna go 5 days a week, depending on the person you are, that may actually work. But I think from what we see for the majority of us is that doesn't actually work. So what if we said, I wanna go to the gym once in January, because you went none in the year before, but you want to make that change. Well, why not put it in the sweet spot, is what we call it, where you think you can enjoy it. And then here's the thing with our New Year's resolutions, is you're better off setting it smaller and achieving it, because the vibration that it puts you in will excite you, than setting it too high up and not achieving that. So another thing with your 2020 goals is, what I would recommend that I found that worked for me is not make a laundry list of things to accomplish. Like set, achievable goals, but also some that's going to make you reach to a higher self. And finally, this is what I do. So with all that data that I got on the things that, I maybe made mistakes, or things that I made mistake and then it allowed me to learn from it, is I now can go with personal things that I need to change moving forward. So to let you guys in on something that has happened to me is in 2019, is what I've learned about myself, is that I didn't have any boundaries. I had no boundaries of self. I just allowed people to walk over me. I allowed people's behavior to make sure it was, I just accepted that. But it's because I didn't have any boundaries. So to give you an example of what I put in my journal moving forward is, I need to establish boundaries. So when I've discovered something in myself that I don't feel that I want to accept from someone doing to me, what I'm going to do in 2020 is listen to that boundary. I'm going to establish that boundary and then listen to it. That's another thing. So that's just to give you an example. So just to recap on the process, is that I first journal every day in 2020, give or take. Then what I do is I revise it. I condense it into a chewable yearly bullet point notes, almost like the table of contents of my year. Then I track down all the lessons that I've learned of that year. From there, I go and I make my 2020 goals. I set out all the things that I want to do in 2020. And then finally, I make the solutions moving forward to all the things that I've learned and what I want to apply for 2020. So my intention for sharing this video and this content and my process for creating 2020 resolutions is to maybe give you something to chew on for this year, 2020. Guys, 2020, perfect vision, okay? There's going to be a big awakening happening, and this type of self-development I found on my journey has been extremely beneficial to getting me towards what I want. So with that being said, I share my peace and I share my love.